Hi, everyone. Welcome to Lumio Palooza 2026, day 2. My name is Jana. I'm an education solutions consultant here at Smart. And today we are going to be learning with Peter, and he is from Fort Bend ISD, and that is just outside of Houston. So make sure that you share where you're joining from in the chat. I saw a couple of us already were, so make sure you drop where you're from. Maybe a session that you're looking forward to, or something that's already resonated with you, or maybe something that you're excited that hopefully Peter will cover. Lumio Palooza is a free global professional learning event led by educators from around the world. This session is being recorded, so rest assured, you will receive all recordings via email early next week. You will receive links in the chat throughout, including the survey link for your certificate at the end. We would love for you to become a student for a few minutes. So in just a second, we'll give you the join code so that you can join the Lumio lesson using lumioclass.com and the code for this session. Again, I mentioned we'll pop it on screen in just a bit, and it will be in the chat. Feel free to ask any questions throughout the session. We'll make sure to answer them for you. And then we definitely want to make sure that we take some time at the end of this session to share our experiences on social media. So during the session, if you see something you like, grab a quick screen share or a quick snippet to share on your socials using the hashtag LumioPalooza 2026 and hashtag GoLumio. That way, we're also have a social media contest going on. So you can share on X, Instagram, LinkedIn, whatever your social media of choice platform is. Share as many times as you like. And then our day 2 winners of our $25 gift cards will be revealed at 7 p.m. Eastern tonight. So we definitely encourage you to join that as well. Now, I would love to bring up our presenter, Peter.
Hello, everybody. Hope you guys are having a great experience here with Lumio Palooza. I'm excited to share some of this little lesson I did, and it's actually a cool lesson because I worked with some other teachers in our district on it. And then when Lumio Palooza came out, I said this would be an excellent time to kind of share what these teachers, really the teachers kind of developed, and then they just were kind of like, hey, yeah, have some fun presenting on it. So I think if you want to bring up the screen, and then we'll give you guys a few more seconds to get into the class, the lumioclass.com, and then there's the join code 333863. So give a few seconds just so that everybody can get in there. And then we'll get started. Again, this is going to be a little bit of a music lesson, but then I think you can take some of the learning and you'll be able to take that and build in other lessons and see how you could use it with the kids in other ways, because it's just a fun way to kind of assess students using some of the newer features that Lumio has on there. So let me see.
Well, so while they're joining, Peter, so I think you already mentioned it, but what inspired you to do this particular session? And I love it because it's different. It's outside of your core content subjects. I'm really excited for educators to see how to use Lumio in a different way. But what really inspired you to do this?
Well, I'll actually have a slide in there that I'll talk a little bit about it. But what happened was there were some teachers that I had a music teacher from one of the schools that I support, and he wanted to learn Lumio. So I started coming out to his classroom and we started working with him. And he had never really touched a smart panel. He had never really touched Lumio at all. So it was from square one. And it was like, we would just go out once a week, do a little bit teaching him. So it went from here's the panel, from just how to use the whiteboard on the panel to how to use the pens on the panel, how to display on the panel. Then it moved on to, okay, now let's start building out a lesson. So it was little by little. And, the trickiest part was he had all these ideas he wanted to do and take all this stuff. So it was kind of like he had all this great music knowledge that he wanted to do. And it was like, well, how do I get this music onto the panel? How do I get this activity onto the panel? So we kind of started brainstorming different ideas.
Love it.
Different ideas. So it was neat too, because it kind of showed that it could go outside of just the regular classroom, because sometimes a lot of times, unfortunately, with my job role, I'm dealing with the 4 contents, the math, science, ELA, social studies. But it was fun to be able to kind of dabble into the fine arts and work with the fine arts, and then give them an opportunity, because we got them their panels and they have the Lumio, And then when they started to see the value of it, especially anytime I do the math, I always show them the whiteboard feature of the chords.
Yep.
As soon as they see that, they're so excited about that. But then it's like all the other stuff that they can do with it.
Awesome. Great. I'm
So I think
excited for this one.
I'm gonna start moving on with that. I think if people have to, I think they can see inside there the Lumio link on there. We can always join them in.
Yep, absolutely.
So name of the lesson is Tic Tac Toe Interactive Music Assessment with Lumio. And my name again is Peter Yakus. I am the coordinator of technology integration in Fort Bend, which is a small district. I would say small little district outside of Texas. It's the 7th largest district in the state. So I always like, and then I say the small little city because we have small little towns out around us that incorporate into Fort Bend. This lesson is going to be, we're going to talk about little notes and rests that students use to practice the rhythm accuracy. And then also we're going to talk about how the teachers can use these pages to assess, because one of the big things that came out of the lesson was the director of the music wanted to make sure that how are the teachers assessing the kids? Because what they feared was they were seeing the kids too much come into the music class, played some instrument, and then the teacher never really had a way to see, did the kids get it? So they really wanted to make sure they had that connection. Oops, let me go back. Hit too fast. That's weird. There's one of the slides is not popping up. Did I accidentally hit the wrong? Hang on 1 second. That's weird. There should have been a slide that, okay, so for some reason, one of the slides is not popping up. So I'm going to talk briefly about, so here's a little bit about how this came about. What ended up happening was one of the couple teachers said that they wanted to learn about technology. So they all met. There was we have 50 elementary schools in our district, and they all met together and they said, well, who wants to learn about technology? And a group of teachers raised their hands saying they wanted to learn about technology. Well, when they raised their hand to learn about technology, they became the technology committee for the music department. They didn't realize they were volunteering to have to present to the rest of the music department at the end of the year. So these group of 4 or 5 teachers found out that they had to present to their staff. So they ended up reaching out to me saying, okay, we have to present to our staff. What can we do? So I started going out there and meeting with, and one of the teachers was the one I was working with. So we started meeting with all these other teachers from different schools. We started working together, and again, started with Lumio. How does Lumio work? What does everything go through? And we started working with them to make sure that they were comfortable with the technology. Then after that, what we did is we started saying, okay, let's not reinvent the wheel. Let's go into the Lumio library and pull a resource that's already been built out. And if you haven't had a chance to go into the Lumio library, I always tell teachers, anytime I do any training on Lumio, my first step is always go to the Lumio library first. Take what somebody else has already developed and then modify it to make it your own. And because even though, we want the teachers to learn how to develop stuff themselves, sometimes time is always an issue. So getting the teachers to go into that Lumio library becomes huge. Get them to go in there is, a godsend to pull something out. So they went in and they all found different things that they wanted to use with the music. And what we started doing was kind of merging it together. We started merging the lesson together on there. So as I go through this lesson, there's a couple things I want to make sure I really stress. My disclaimer. First disclaimer, I am not a music teacher. I am in no way a music teacher. I worked with the music teacher, so hopefully I don't disappoint any of you guys. We went through that, they taught me 16th notes, 8th notes, quarter notes, rest and stuff like that. 95% of it I've already forgotten. I was terrible. My sister played piano. She played organ. She played for, music. She got all that. She was great. I learned one-handed, and then when they brought the second hand into the piano, I got totally lost on music. So I went the sports route. But I worked with the teachers on the music, and my job always is, and I always tell the teachers, I have worked with teachers on calculus lessons, trigonometry lessons, AP chemistry lessons. My goal is I help you find the technology and how to integrate it. And I always joke around, I don't need to know the content. They put the content in. I just help them put it into the Lumio stuff. So if I end up saying wrong things about the music, I apologize, okay? But I think we'll have some fun. So on that note, let's learn a little bit about music, okay? So on that good disclaimer, hopefully you guys are all still here. You just didn't leave on me. So the first thing that they did is they wanted to do some way to engage the kids and get the kids to start thinking about the pacing of rest and stuff like that. So what they came up with is they found this, that a teacher had did that. They had a teacher had already developed this lesson where they had the different candy, and when you hit the little audio, and we'll hit this.
Bubble gum.
So they went back and the teacher, and one of the big things was the teachers wanted it to be their own voice. They felt that the kids needed to hear their own the teacher's voice. And the idea behind it would be that the kids would come up to the board, they'd hit the panel.
Bubble gum.
So they'd hear bubble gum. So they would know that it's a 3-note. And the idea was that the kids would drag it down and they'd put it in the correct spot. So then the idea was, because one of the things that we had teachers realize, they said too, was especially with the music, every kid wants to come up to the panel. The minute one kid comes up to the panel, every kid wants to come up to the panel. So the teachers realized that they could go through and have the kids.
Jolly Ranchers.
Jolly Ranchers. So that would be a 4-beat. So then the kids would bring it down and they would move on there so that the kids would attach the audio and that they could move it around. So the teacher went back through and recorded each one of these. Now I will give this as another little idea. This is actually in the Lumio library. You'll have this lesson as well, so you could take it, but we found this in the Lumio library. But what happened was when we downloaded it, sometimes when you download it, all the audio doesn't follow. So you may get this when you download this. If you get the teacher share link that's in the the chat, it might not bring the audio over. For some reason, the audio, it depends on your computer and how fast. Sometimes it doesn't process the audio correctly on there, just to let you know. So like I said, the teacher said they would go through here, and this was a way.
Hot tamales.
So you can see hot tamales. So they would go through and they would work with the kids, dragging it through. So they had that to just introduce the kids with the idea of rhythm. Then they would go in and do the little teach piece about what the notes were, the quarter notes, the half notes, eighth notes with rests. Then what they would do is they took them to this next slide. Again, this was a slide that we found on there, and the teachers could change what music they wanted. And the idea behind this is these items down here are all cloned. So when they grab them, they will be cloned. And what will happen is they're going to attach an audio to the piano. And when they click on the piano, it will play some song. The kids would come up and move the audio notes to however it went. And then they can move here to check their answer. So they can actually move this to check their answer. So this one right here I have set up. When you download this, this is your template. And then what you do is you duplicate it, make your notes, and then then duplicate to each one. So this one, there is no audio attached to it. This one will be a blank template for you. But then when the teachers come in, the kids come in, we play the audio. So the teacher would tap on this on the panel. And then they could play. So I'm going to try to hit it again. And then the kids should go through. So I'm just going to go, and like I said, again, this is where my lack of music shows up. But then the idea would be that they could drag what their notes would be, and then they could move this to the side. So I was way off. And so, like I said, it's like, I guess it could be like, do you know math better than a fifth grader? I guess is what I'm showing. And like I said, but the idea behind it is they can drag this in and the kids can go through. So they did. Now, the nice thing about this is if you didn't want to be a piano, you could put a drum and they could tap a drum. If you wanted to do different notes, you could put your own notes in there. And I'm going to show you how you do the audio on there. But what they would do is they would go through each one, they would listen to it. And then the thing is, the kids could play it again. They could play it over again. The teacher could have them. And then they would drag up their notes, and I'm not going to embarrass myself on this. I'll just show the answer. And you can see that they have the different items. Now, the nice thing is with this, you could also change out these notes if you wanted to. You could change out the notes on there. So the way that they did the audio on there is, let me go back here to my made up slide. Oops. Is all you do on the audio is the teacher, you click on your image, whatever image you put in, you do the little drop down, and there is a new feature. It's somewhat new. It's been out for a while, but I mean, you'll see what says attach audio. When you click attach audio, you can either upload it if you have it already. So if you have a bunch of them saved, you can upload them, or you can record the audio. So what this teacher did is she just recorded the audio, and then she was just by her piano with her device. She had a microphone by her device, and then she would just hit record, bum, 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 bum. And then when you hit pause, that pauses it, and then you can listen to it. Bum, 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 bum. And then they can either continue it or delete it. And then you just say add audio. And it puts that little icon in there. So now hit record, bum, 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 bum. And then it's as simple as that. So yeah, all you have to do is, and then you can put any image you want. So if you're doing a drum, you put a drum. If you're doing a harmonica, put a harmonica, a guitar, whatever instrument it is, you just put it in there. And then same thing with the notes. You just put your notes. Yeah, she did using a device. Yeah, she and her piano. So she recorded using this device, her computer, and then she also used a piano nearby her. So she had to have like a microphone. But like basically she just used her computer and just had the microphone. She put her laptop on the computer as she was playing the notes. So she would just play both back and forth. So like I said, and then the neat thing is you can actually, any item you want can actually have audio on here. Like, so these are locked, but if I was to unlock this, if I was to go to here, I could actually attach audio to that note. So if I wanted to, I could attach the audio of what that note sounds like. So the kids could go through. That's also how she did the candy. She just clicked on the candy and attached the notes she just read the candy off out loud. So the teacher then goes through, and you'll see that there's a couple examples on here for them to go through. Then what we do is we go into the individual student's handout. So if you are actually in the class right now, I can go through, you guys as the students, you should have where it says begin or a start. You have the ability to do this lesson yourself. So as the teacher, I could go in and I would say, okay, class, you guys are going to listen to this, and you're going to listen to the music. So tell the kids would have their devices. They would have joined my class. They'd listen to the music. And then I would say, okay, now drag the notes up, and the kids could model that. And then I would give the kids some opportunity to go through. So I can see some of you guys are in the class right now. So you guys can do a try of doing the notes. So I'll give you a second just to give a practice of it. But the idea behind it now, this is where that assessment comes in. Now the teacher is collecting data from the kids. She's collecting the data from the students to have them have to actually, something that she can then report on. So it's just not her taking a grade. So I see that Jana is done. So I can go in and I'll pick on Jana. Pull hers up. So she said, she's listening to there. And then the idea behind it would be, I could see that, yes, she got it. Now, one of the ways I could modify this as well is I could take it where I don't put the answer underneath it. Like with this was just practice. So the idea was put your notes, talk to the kids, tell them, put your notes, but don't change your answer. I could have done it with them not having the answer there. So that way you have the kids, change their answer if they're wrong. And one of the things too, I want to point out, you'll notice on this that the star only moves left and right. If you haven't seen this, I'm going to unlock it. With the stars, one of the neat features too, especially this is elementary, you can allow vertical move or horizontal, or allow move and rotate. So all I did is I said, allow horizontal move. That way the kids can only move it this one direction. So you don't end up with the arrow all over the place with the kids. They can only move it left and right. So it goes that way. So you could do that same thing with vertical. So it allows it to keep the kids somewhat organized on there. So again, I could go through, and like I said, I won't pick on anybody else on the class. Well, actually, I can pick on our other moderators. So I could pick on I'll pick on the moderators. How's that sound? I'll pick on the moderators so you can see. So he was close with it. He just, so that he might need a little bit of help with knowing what the 16th or the eighth notes are and the whole notes are on there. So you can kind of go through with that. And then the idea behind it is you can kind of see the class overview, and then you can see where the other students were on there. So it gives me that data. Again, I can export that data on there. So then you have two of those in the classroom. So there was another one example on there. So then I could go through, the kids can go through on another activity. So I give them kind of two examples on there. The nice thing was though, with these, again, the teachers, you guys could go in there, work on this. The teacher at any moment, the nice thing is at any moment, this one, if I wanted to, I could come up here and then make it an individual student handout, or I could push it to be an individual student handout. I have two of them set up in the lesson the teachers did, but at any moment, one of the things I always tell my teachers is, I know you can predetermine if it's an independent or a whole group or a class. I always like to show the teachers how they can do it when they're in the moment, because if you're an elementary music teacher, sometimes you'll be looking at it, are the kids ready to go independent or not? So it might be you have enough of these on there. There's like 7 or 8 of them that you can jump in at any time. So that's the nice thing, is you can jump in there and then give them the individual handout if you think they're ready. Or if you don't think they're ready for the individual, you just keep going as a whole class and have the kids come up to the board. So we go through, there's the individual handouts. Then the teachers, they developed a little match them up activity. So you guys would have the ability to do the match them up activity. The nice thing about this too is if you don't think the kids are ready to do it on their own, it gives them the opportunity to come up whole class. So there you just do whole class. The kids come up, because some of our kids, some of the music teachers, their kids, you only have 45 minutes. If the elementary is not 1-to-1, so by the time the kids get their devices out, they log into the devices, they sit down, you might not have time for this. So they could also do it as a whole class. So again, this is another way, if the teacher wants the kids to do it individual, they're collecting their data. If they want to do it as a whole class, then they can see how the kids do, have a couple kids come up. The only problem with this is you only really get to have 5 kids come up, drag one of these. They could say what they think it is and then drag it. You don't get as many students involved with it, but it's a good little review that you could do with the students. So the students can come in, they put it on there. I like the idea that there was the little musical backdrop. So that kind of worked well too, with the musical backdrop. But again, they could either do it as a whole class, or you can see that, how many kids have completed it. So you have that idea. Again, I can get that student progress on there. One of the things I always explain to my teachers too is don't push this up in front of the class with all the other kids, because it shows kids' data on there. But again, they could see how the class did on there. And again, now some of the teachers say, depending on the time, they've got to go through, we have about 45 minutes for music. So it might have been that they introduced part of the lesson the one day, the kids come back the next week, they do the next part, and then they go in and they do the next part later on. So the idea behind it, depending on where they were with the lesson and what they were doing with the kids. So again, this is, the teachers had this option. They were showing the teachers different ways to break this up. And then, oops, that's weird. It jumped. Oh yeah. So then this one is, we did where they can try. And on this one, we said, okay, now this would be where the teacher could go through and model. And this is another one that explains exactly how to do the lesson. It tells the kids are going to click on the piano. They're going to click on the drop-down arrow. They're going to click attach audio. And then it kind of tells them in there to hit the record audio. And the idea behind it is they're supposed to make their own notes. And then they drag up the notes, and can they drag it themselves? So you have this as an individual handout. But the idea behind it is now you're getting the kids in the room making their own notes and making their own sounds, and then they have to drag their music up. So the idea behind it is the kids then, again, another data point for the kids to have to create their own assessment. So you have data on them. So you have at the beginning, you can do in a whole class with the kids coming up to the board. Then you model this similar activity on the board with the kids. if time allows, let them try listening to the music themselves and drag it. Or you could jump right to this slide and have the kids hum, beat on their desk, play an instrument, use the recorder, play their notes. And now you have an assessment of, do the kids understand, see that? Could we see the screen at the same time by moving the record? Unfortunately, the recording, they can't see that. So when you do hear, that might be a feature, Jana. They need to, like, can they move this to be able to move this? Unfortunately, this box stays here, so they can't move this. So that might be one of the ones that's an added feature, to be able to move this box. But yeah, that would be a nice one.
Yeah, great feature for sure.
Yeah, but the nice thing is with this audio, you could take this too and change this to be letter sounds, letter blends. I mean, it's not limited just to music. This could be anything that you wanted the kids to practice. Words, items, things, you could put whatever you want for the kids to use that. Like as Ophelia says, you can use with the symbols of words. Yeah, the kids could have to say, or you could even have the kids have to say, okay, identify the notes that you put. Instead of humming it, it might be that they have to put, I put whole note, 16th note, rest. So that way, do the kids know the music? Do they understand? So the kids are going through, they're doing this activity. Then the last thing that they do to see if the kids know it, this is where the tic-tac-toe, you're probably thinking, wait, this was called tic-tac-toe. Where's the tic-tac-toe at? This is, you divide the class into two groups. You have the treble, and you can put your troublemakers in the treble side, right? And then the clef notes. And then what it is the teacher, the treble kids come up, teacher plays a series of notes, and the kids have to guess which one it is. Now, we went back and forth on this lesson because the teachers wanted to first say, well, I'll play the notes and they have to go through. But then the issue with this was, well, if the treble gets this one right, and then they go here, and then they go here, the teachers were like, well, then I'll just play notes. I was like, no, you can't just randomly play notes, because you have to play these notes because they're going to want to block. So they had a discussion about how they move the boxes and stuff like that. So we kind of said that, you kind of almost have to let the kids come up and they would have to play the notes. And if they play the note correctly, they would earn that box. Because we said, if not, if the teacher plays this one, then the kids are going to not be able to block. So we said, yeah, the kids almost have to play this one. But the idea behind it is, every time a kid comes up, you're still also getting an assessment of, do they understand the notes? And then we gave a couple different ones. In each one of these, there was a couple series in here in the lesson that you'll have that has a couple different plays that they can do with the students. So they can play this like 4 times, which gives you actually quite a bit of data with the students. So again, like I said, we kind of went through, this was a thing that the teachers did. They presented it to their other music teachers. The other music teachers loved it and stuff like that. They were excited about it. So now they want to see how they can go even further with it next year. So hopefully maybe next year we get some other examples on there. But like I said, it's a fun way to use the audio feature, using that audio feature with that to record, especially with the music. It gives you so many opportunities for the kids to hear it, to actually record their own stuff. So we thought this was a great lesson, something fun to share with you guys. So hopefully you guys got some good ideas. Feel free to, share them with, I guess, Jana, or I'd love to hear how this is always used, later on. If you ever have that, feel free to share it with us. And I'm excited to see what you guys do.
Yeah, we will. I loved it. I was a math and science teacher, so to be able to see how Lumio is used in other aspects of the classroom has been really interesting, or just in the school in general. And the question was specifically mentioned, can students record their own audio? And the answer to that, you covered that. It was yes, which is absolutely really great. I love the flow, modeling, individual assessment with the game, and then followed up with some fun tic-tac-toe. So really cool examples. We have people asking for your share lesson and all the things. So we'll drop that in the chat. Yeah. That if you want to pop that resource page up there, I will make sure that our attendees know our resources. There we go. There they are. So again, a lot of these links will be dropped in the chat, but Lumio has a a number of many free resources that you can take advantage of that will walk you through exactly some of the features that Peter showed you, like attaching audio and then other things as well. I really highly encourage the Academy. It is free, self-paced coursework that educators can work their way through, learn all about the features within Lumio. We've got our free webinar series there. You can look for upcoming webinars or on-demand ones that you'll find the recording at the bottom. The Lumio YouTube is probably one of my favorite resources. It has a number of really short little videos specifically on a topic or a feature that you're looking for. So think 1 to 2 minute little self-help videos, great resources there on that page. You'll flip to the next one, Peter. I believe this is our ambassador page. Definitely. So we really encourage all of our Lumio users to become an ambassador. You do not have to be a Lumio expert at all to become an ambassador. Our ambassador platform is just a really fantastic way for you to connect with Lumio educators from across the world. It's one of my favorite things about Lumio Palooza is we have educators from literally across the world, all time zones, all countries presenting their favorite sessions and their favorite topics. So not only do you get to experience that at Lumio Palooza, but you can experience that on a daily basis by becoming an ambassador and connecting with other educators, just getting to learn from them. You can showcase your work. You can get ideas from what other people are doing. So that ambassador link will also be dropped in the chat. So I really encourage you to apply today. And then the next one, I believe, is our social media. I'll go ahead and touch on this. And if that social media one's not on there, I'll touch on that as well. In the chat is the link to the survey. Make sure that you complete the survey. That is how you will receive your certificate for completing today's session. We definitely just want to thank you very much for joining in on this session. It was a different one, a unique one. I'm excited to be a part of it. Can't wait to see how these things are used. But I do see that that link being dropped in the chat. So just make sure that you take that survey and you will receive a copy of your certificate. And Peter, do we have the one for the social media challenge? If not, I'm happy to just speak on it.
No, it's not popping up.
Okay, not a problem. So for the social media posting, I mentioned it at the very beginning. If you have any comments or takeaways from Peter's session today, make sure that you take it to your favorite social platform. So again, Instagram, X, LinkedIn, TikTok, whatever that looks like. And just make sure that you use the hashtag LumioPalooza 2026 and hashtag GoLumio. And you can, like I said, share your insights, your ideas, your learning. Every post is a separate entry, so you're welcome to post as many times as you want. And then the day 2 winners are actually coming up pretty quickly, 7 p.m. Eastern. Our winners will be announced live during our keynote session today at 7 p.m. Eastern. So that's how you can find out if you won. You still have plenty of time to right after this session, go make a couple of quick social media posts and then hopefully get yourself entered to win a $25 gift card of your choice. But with that, Peter, anything else you want to add? And if not, I want to personally thank you for volunteering. This was really great. I love seeing it. I can't wait to see how educators are using it, not only in your district, but across the world. But anything else you wanted to top up on?
No, I just thank you guys for coming. I know like it's always the last, towards the end of the day, I was like ready to go home and everything. But I'm excited. And I think it's, I was excited using the music. One of my goals, I want to try to see if I can get art teachers now, I expand out and play with the other fine arts and the other contents. It's always kind of unique to kind of, because sometimes they're overlooked and they don't get that support that he wants. So I was like, this was fun to be able to work with them and help them out.
That's very true. And Lumio truly is cross-curricular. I mean, It can be used in lots of different aspects and different avenues. So agree. I challenge you to come back next year with an art presentation.
All right. Okay. I'll see what I can get.
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
Well, thanks everyone for joining us. We really appreciate your time and have a wonderful evening.